Start.
Yeah.
Suprabhatam. Good morning.
Good morning.
Seated at Edward Street, Port of Spain, we have a few minutes to discuss about few important points in life. We all had several occasions in our lives to rejoice over many things. Those objects or those instances or those events at that point of time, they seemed very, very important to us. We could not afford to gloss over those things at that point of time. But as the reel is moving, it's rolling, the time is passing. Those important moments do not seem important anymore. Is it not? Once you had missed an appointment with your friend, your girlfriend, or your would-be fiancé, or this thing, at the time, missing that appointment, not even by a dot or by a second, that would have been actually some sort of unbearable pain. But you are past that relationship or past that phase of relationship. There are two things. Once you are past that relationship or that phase of the relationship, that importance is not material and relevant anymore. Now, we had relished and rejoiced over many objects. Is it not? Now the question is, how did they make themselves dear to us in our hearts? Why did our mind decide that this is the one for me? This is the one I should look forward to. This is the one for which I should work more, strive more, and thrive more to just get this thing. So who exactly has decided this? Was it our mind? Was it our sensory pleasures? What drove us at that particular point of time? And after, so if we are around 50, 20 years ago or 30 years ago, the priorities we had in our lives, are they different from now? And do we still hold the belief that they are eternal to our lives and we want them all the time at the point of time? I am not at all sure whether everyone would hold the same opinion or not. First of all, we'll come back to the same question that was popped up. How did the mind decide that this is the one for me? And for whose sake? That's the second question. And this contact of those particular objects or events or instances, did it leave a good taste or bad taste? For that, let us analyze the point of pleasure. See, pleasure is of two types. In the Shastras, the scriptures of our Indian heritage, we call these pleasures of two types. One is Sanyogaja. One is due to the contact you are getting a pleasure. The second one is Viyogaja. Viyoga means parting ways, severance. Just think of a person whom you have loved a lot, and due to their contact, either by phone, either by speech, or communion, or some physical contact, you had enjoyed. And the time you realize that they are actually a botheration to you and they are curtailing your freedom to decide things over, whether good for good or bad, then the same person at the same instance would actually get you bored up, and that would land you in some sort of, that would put you in some sort of trouble spot. Then the same instance, for example, I will give you one more example. You wanted to see a James Bond movie, which you wanted to like, some Star Wars, or some scientific fiction movie. If I put you duty at a theater to watch the same movie again and again, would you relish that? Never. So that means an object or an instance or an event is never in its first place dear to you. Only the limited period in which you are coming into contact with that is actually making a sense, nothing else. So this leaves all of us in a position saying that everything has a shelf life. Everything in our lives have a shelf life, limited life, shelf life. It is not infinite. Whether it is the association of a food, consumption of a food, consummation of a relationship, either business or some physical relationship, marital relationship, or some sort of friendship for pleasure, friends with benefits. All these things, they have a shelf life. And this shelf life alone is actually leaving some sort of impression in your mind. You just recall your very childhood, when you were very, very young. Almost you are like a baby or a very small kid. You had an impression in your mind. You had seen a little larger space than your home. Then you thought that, wow, what a vast, large, beautiful, sprawling place. After few years, you had moved to larger places. You might have owned them or you might have worked them. Then at that point of time, you will certainly understand that the place what you considered as a larger one, as a vast one, is not like actually. Then what was that? At that point of time, your mind had its indelible impression imprinted on it. So that could not be just warded off. You can't wish that away. So that would remain there. Is it not? But that impression had carried a lot of weight in your mind. So even if you think about your childhood or your youth, then means, oh, I had a very vast place in front of my front yard. Something like that, those things would happen. So therefore, the pleasures and the rejoicing actually has two aspects in our lives. The first one is every relationship or every association has a time frame, and the time frame, if it exceeds that, then that would leave a bad taste. Let me compare the same movie scene. After the movie is over, once the curtains are drawn, then there is no pleasure left in you to be at the theater. You don't feel like going to the cinema again and again, just sitting there. The same place which gave you pleasure does not give you any pleasure. In fact, there is something called this feel of detachment. Every person has it in their lives. Whatever be, even if he's a Romeo or very vagabond or very much who is indulgent in this thing, no physical association or contact would leave pleasure in a person beyond a certain point. If you leave any person in the company, after 24 hours, both of them get this thing. If you just leave them, they will quarrel also. So everything has a shelf life. And the shelf life has a special meaning to everyone. It is dear to you because you want it. It is not for the sake of others. As we said, the pleasures of two types. The first type is due to the contact. The second one is due to the severance. Suppose the same nagging person, if he is taken off from your life, then you feel so much relief. If there is a wound, or if there is a insect, or if there is a thorn which has entered your body, if you remove that, then you will have. So that viyoga, that severance, that separation has brought you happiness. So therefore, the communion or the contact or the severance, both of them give us happiness due to the factor of this limited time frame. Once we understand this basic concept, then we don't feel so much deprived once a person leaves us. For that we have a classical analogy. If our life is a stream, where all small boats or small vans of some grass vans or some grass sticks or a wooden logs. Our life, we have been brought into this world, which is like a flowing stream. And being a log, we don't drown, we keep on floating. In this float, we get companionship. Some of the other logs and other wooden pieces, they also tag along, and we will be floating together for some time. For some reason, if there is a bend or if there is a hindrance, those tagged along objects, they stop. But our journey goes wherever we are destined to. The same bend which could not stop our companion tagged along object, suddenly for some bend it stops there. Physically, we can say that physics for these many millimeters, this was the centrifugal force, or so these were the energy that was reason for all these things. But why did it happen at that particular hour or particular bend? Simply put, it's the destiny which called it the time for its stoppage. So therefore, everything happens for a reason. And once we have reached this point, we don't travel further. Even we ourselves, for the pleasure of others, we can't expect ourselves to toil more and still float. Take the example of a port. If two boats were tugging along, once your destination has this thing, you have reached your port, then you would unload your goods. You don't still float further. You don't sail further. Is it not? So therefore, everyone is tied to their destiny, and there is not much reason to be very much pinned down by losing a relationship. We should understand that, okay, its timeline is ending. So every relationship has its timeline. Perhaps we are coming to the close to this, and we should realize this. The earlier we realize, the lesser the pain would be. And Upanishad, the Indian heritage scripture, aptly reminds us, nahi patyuh kamaja patih priyo bhavati, atmanastu kamaja patih priyo bhavati. They have given several examples. Natu putrasya kamaja putrah priyo bhavati. If you like your son or your daughter or your kid a lot, is it for the sake, for the pleasure of that kid, or for yourself? Just extending the analogy, the kid who has relished your company by sitting on your lap, hugging you, he would not want to do it beyond a certain point of age. If you just ask him or her to sit on the lap after a certain point of time, once they reach the teenage, then they despise this. Oh, I am older enough, all my friends would laugh at me if I am sitting like this. And the same company that you have relished, the moment they start resisting your orders or commands, then you would start to develop some sort of aversion to the kids, your own kids, whom you have produced. So even the production which you held as very dear to your heart, that also loses its favoritism in your mind. So everything has a shelf life. Once we realize that, it will be better. So if we are holding dear any object or any personality or any phenomenon very dear in life, that is for the sake of your mind, not for the sake of others. This holds good to the other party also. As long as you are useful to them, as long as you are beneficial to them, they will relish your company. The moment they think that this is not giving them the commensurate benefit, then they will stop seeing you. They wouldn't want to continue this association beyond a point. Everyone wants the other person's company for a limited time. But after this limitation, then the aversion would also start. Therefore, another very good sentence is Ati Sarvatra Varjayet. Too much is too bad. Keep it in the limitation. This is not to say that we should be away from all the people and we should shun all the contacts at any cost. We don't say that. We don't say that. What we say is it has to be in the limit and you have to be in control of yourself. Don't let someone else control your emotions. As long as you are in the control of your emotions, nothing can stop your happiness. Have a good day. Cheers.
Same to you. Enjoy your time.